Fort Worth's summer heat was relentless, even at night. I wiped the sweat from my brow as I hustled through the hospital corridors, my scrubs clinging to my skin. Night shifts were a necessary evil in my line of work, but they played havoc with my gym routine. Still, I was determined to hit CrossFit after my shift. It was my sanctuary, my escape from the chaos of the ER. As I pushed through the gym doors, the familiar scent of sweat and determination filled my nostrils. My eyes scanned the room, landing on a newcomer struggling with a barbell. She was blonde, lean, with an air of corporate polish that seemed at odds with the grungy gym atmosphere. Something about her caught my attention. Maybe it was the determined set of her jaw, or the way her green eyes flashed with frustration. I watched as she attempted a clean and jerk, her form all wrong. Without thinking, I approached her. "Hey there, mind if I give you a hand?" She looked up, startled. "Oh, sure. I'm probably making a fool of myself, aren't I?" I laughed, shaking my head. "Nah, we all start somewhere. I'm Erica, by the way." "Layla," she replied, offering a smile that made my heart skip a beat. "I'd appreciate any help you can give. I'm totally out of my depth here." I positioned myself behind her, guiding her arms into the correct form. "It's all about the flow of movement," I explained, trying to ignore the warmth of her body against mine. "Here, let me show you." As I demonstrated the lift, I could feel Layla's eyes on me. When I set the barbell down, she let out a low whistle. "Wow, you make it look so easy. How long have you been doing this?" "A few years now," I admitted. "It's my stress relief from work. I'm a nurse at Fort Worth Memorial." Layla's eyes widened. "Really? That must be intense. I'm just a boring business consultant." We fell into an easy rhythm, working out side by side. I found myself sneaking glances at Layla, admiring the way her blonde hair caught the gym's harsh lighting. The determined set of her jaw as she pushed through each rep. There was something about her that drew me in. A magnetism I couldn't explain. As we were cooling down, Layla turned to me. "Hey, would you maybe want to grab a smoothie or something? To replenish our energy, of course." I felt a flutter in my stomach. "I'd love to," I replied, perhaps a bit too eagerly. "There's a great place just around the corner." We walked to the smoothie bar, our shoulders occasionally brushing. The night air was thick with humidity, but I barely noticed, too caught up in our conversation. Layla was funny, smart, and there was a vulnerability in her eyes that made me want to know more. Over acai bowls, we talked about everything and nothing. I found myself opening up about the challenges of night shifts, the emotional toll of working in the ER. Layla listened intently, her green eyes filled with compassion. "Gosh, I don't know how you do it," she said, shaking her head. "My job feels so trivial in comparison." I reached out, touching her hand briefly. "Hey, every job has its challenges. I'm sure being a business consultant isn't all glamour and PowerPoint presentations." Layla laughed, but there was a flicker of something, worry, stress, in her eyes. "You have no idea," she murmured. As we parted ways that night, I felt a spark of excitement I hadn't experienced in years. There was something special about Layla, something that made me want to see her again. Little did I know, this chance encounter at the gym was about to change both our lives in ways we could never have imagined. Over the next few weeks, Layla and I fell into a comfortable routine. Our gym sessions became the highlight of my day, a bright spot amidst the chaos of hospital life. We'd push each other through grueling workouts, then reward ourselves with smoothies and conversation that flowed as easily as the protein shakes we gulped down. One evening, as we cooled down on the gym's rooftop, Layla turned to me, her green eyes reflecting the setting sun. "You know, Erica, I never thought I'd say this, but I actually look forward to working out now." I laughed, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with our recent exertion. "Well, I'd like to think I'm better company than a treadmill." "Oh, infinitely," Layla replied, her smile making my heart skip a beat. "Though I'm not sure my muscles agree after today's session." As we sat there, Fort Worth sprawled out before us, I found myself opening up about my childhood in a small Texas town, the struggles of coming out to conservative parents, and the freedom I found in nursing. Layla listened intently, her hand occasionally brushing mine in a way that sent shivers down my spine. "It's funny," she said softly, "how similar our stories are. I grew up in a small town too, always feeling like the odd one out. It wasn't until I moved to the city that I felt like I could truly be myself." Our eyes met, and for a moment, I thought she might kiss me. Instead, she looked away, a shadow crossing her face. I should probably head home. My sister. She's not been well lately. I felt a pang of concern. Is everything okay? Layla hesitated, then sighed. She has a rare heart condition. The medical bills, they're overwhelming. Without thinking, I reached out and squeezed her hand. I'm so sorry, Layla. Is there anything I can do? She gave me a sad smile. Just this. Being here, being my friend. It means more than you know. As we parted ways that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Layla's story than she was letting on, but I pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the warmth of her hand in mine, the vulnerability in her eyes as she'd opened up to me. The next day, I was surprised to see Layla at the hospital. She was waiting outside the ER, a brown paper bag in her hands. I thought you might need a pick-me-up, she said, handing me the bag. Inside was a homemade meal, still warm. I was touched by the gesture. Layla, you didn't have to. I wanted to, she interrupted. You're always taking care of others. Let someone take care of you for a change. We found a quiet corner in the hospital cafeteria, and as we ate, Layla told me more about her sister's condition. The worry in her voice was palpable, and I found myself wanting to do anything to ease her burden. You know, I said, I might be able to help. I could ask around, see if there are any clinical trials or specialists who might be able to help. Layla's eyes lit up. You'd do that? Erica, that would be amazing. As my break came to an end, we stood up to say goodbye. The cafeteria was nearly empty, the fluorescent lights casting a harsh glow. But Layla had never looked more beautiful to me than in that moment. Thank you, she whispered, pulling me into a hug. For everything. I breathed in the scent of her hair, my arms tightening around her. When we pulled apart, our faces were inches apart. For a heartbeat, we stayed like that, suspended in the moment. Then, slowly, Layla leaned in. Our lips met in a soft, tentative kiss. It was brief, but it left me breathless. As we parted, Layla's cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright. I've been wanting to do that for weeks, she admitted. Me too, I replied, unable to keep the grin off my face. As I watched Layla leave, my lips still tingling from our kiss, I felt a mix of elation and trepidation. Something was blossoming between us, something beautiful and fragile. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Layla's situation than she was letting on. Little did I know, the coming weeks would test our newfound connection in ways I could never have imagined. In the weeks that followed our first kiss, Layla became a constant presence in my life. She'd show up at the hospital during my breaks, armed with homemade meals and a smile that could light up the dreariest of night shifts. We'd steal moments in quiet corners, her presence a balm to the chaos of the ER. One particularly grueling shift, I emerged from a code blue to find Layla waiting, concern etched on her face. Rough night? She asked, handing me a thermos of coffee. I nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of the last few hours. Lost a patient, I murmured, my voice rough. Without a word, Layla pulled me into her arms. I melted into her embrace, letting the warmth of her body and the soft scent of her perfume wash over me. When we pulled apart, she cupped my face in her hands. You're amazing, you know that? The way you care for people, it's incredible. Her words warmed me more than the coffee ever could. As I looked into her green eyes, I felt a surge of emotion that both thrilled and terrified me. This thing between us was growing faster and deeper than I'd ever experienced before. To celebrate surviving another week of night shifts, we decided to take a weekend getaway to a lakeside cabin just outside Fort Worth. As we drove through the Texas countryside, windows down and music blaring, I couldn't help but steal glances at Layla. The wind whipped through her blonde hair, and her laughter rang out over the sound of the radio. In that moment, I felt truly, blissfully happy. The cabin was small but cozy, nestled among pine trees with a view of the lake. As night fell, we sat on the porch, sharing a bottle of wine and watching the stars come out. I can't remember the last time I felt this relaxed. Layla sighed, leaning her head on my shoulder. I wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. Me neither. It's nice to get away from it all, isn't it? Layla was quiet for a moment, then spoke softly. Erica, there's something I need to tell you. I felt a flicker of apprehension. What is it? She took a deep breath. You know how I've been worried about my sister's medical bills? Well, I've gotten involved in something, an investment scheme. It promised high returns, a way to pay for her treatment. My heart sank. Layla, that sounds risky. Are you sure it's legitimate? She wouldn't meet my eyes. I don't know. At first it seemed too good to be true, but I was desperate. Now, I'm in too deep to back out. I turned to face her, taking her hands in mine. Hey, look at me. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out together, okay? You don't have to do this alone. Layla's eyes welled up with tears. I don't deserve you, she whispered. I leaned in, kissing her softly. You deserve the world, I murmured against her lips. What started as a gentle kiss quickly deepened, fueled by the wine and the intensity of the moment. We stumbled into the cabin, shedding clothes as we went. In the dim light of the bedroom, I took in the sight of Layla, all soft curves and smooth skin. You're beautiful, I breathed. Our bodies came together in a tangle of limbs and sighs, exploring and caressing. It was tender and passionate, a physical expression of the emotions that had been building between us for weeks. Afterwards, as we lay tangled in the sheets, Layla traced patterns on my skin. I've never felt this way about anyone before, she admitted softly. I pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Me neither, I replied, meaning it with every fiber of my being. As we drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake a nagging worry about Layla's investment scheme. But I pushed it aside, focusing instead on the warmth of her body against mine and the contentment I felt in that moment. The rest of the weekend passed in a blissful blur of lazy mornings, walks by the lake, and stolen kisses. But as we drove back to Fort Worth, reality began to creep in. Layla grew quieter, her brow furrowed in worry. Everything okay? I asked, reaching over to squeeze her hand. She gave me a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Just thinking about work, it's going to be a busy week. I nodded, not wanting to push. But as we neared the city, I couldn't help but notice a black SUV that seemed to be following us a little too closely. When I mentioned it to Layla, she tensed visibly. It's probably nothing, she said, but her voice was strained. As I dropped her off at her apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on than Layla was telling me. The memory of our perfect weekend was already fading, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Little did I know, the coming weeks would test our newfound relationship in ways I could never have imagined. The weeks following our lakeside getaway were a whirlwind of emotion. Layla and I grew closer, stealing moments of intimacy between my hospital shifts and her increasingly erratic work schedule. But beneath the surface of our blossoming romance, I could sense a growing tension. One evening, as we cuddled on my couch after a grueling workout, Layla finally opened up. Remember that investment scheme I mentioned? She began, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my heart rate quickening. Yeah, what about it? Layla took a deep breath. It's not just any investment. It's a cryptocurrency scheme. They promised returns that seemed too good to be true, but I was desperate. My sister's medical bills were piling up, and I didn't know what else to do. I sat up, looking at her intently. Layla, that sounds really risky. Are you sure you know what you're getting into? She wouldn't meet my eyes. I thought I did. But now, I'm not so sure. The people running it, they're not who they claim to be. I've been trying to get out, but they won't let me. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean they won't let you? Layla's eyes filled with tears. They've been threatening me, Erica, saying they'll go after my sister if I try to back out or go to the authorities. I pulled her close, my mind racing. Gosh, Layla, why didn't you tell me sooner? We need to go to the police. She shook her head vehemently. No, we can't. They'll know. They're watching me, I'm sure of it. As if on cue, a car horn blared outside. Layla jumped, her face pale. I moved to the window, peering out through the blinds. A black SUV was parked across the street, its tinted windows revealing nothing about its occupants. Is that them? I asked, my voice low. Layla nodded, her body trembling. They've been following me. I thought I was being paranoid, but I felt a surge of protectiveness. We need to do something, Layla. This can't go on. Over the next few days, I noticed the black SUV more and more. It would be parked outside the hospital during my shifts, or trailing us as we drove to the gym. The constant surveillance was unnerving, but what scared me more was the toll it was taking on Layla. She became jumpy, constantly looking over her shoulder. Dark circles appeared under her eyes, and she lost weight. I tried to be supportive, bringing her favorite meals to work and holding her close at night. but I could feel her slipping away. One night, as we lay in bed, Layla turned to me, her green eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "I think I need to disappear for a while," she whispered. My heart clenched. "What? No, Layla, we can figure this out together." She shook her head. "I can't put you in danger. These people, they're dangerous. If anything happened to you because of me." I cupped her face in my hands. "Listen to me. We're in this together, okay? I'm not letting you face this alone." Layla's eyes welled up with tears. "I don't deserve you," she murmured. I leaned in, kissing her softly. "You deserve so much more than this," I whispered against her lips. The kiss deepened, becoming urgent and desperate. We made love with a fierce intensity, as if trying to memorize every touch, every sigh. Afterwards, as Layla slept fitfully in my arms, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with possible solutions. The next day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. During my lunch break, I slipped away to the hospital's administrative offices. I had a friend in the billing department who owed me a favor. "Hey Sarah," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "I need to look up some information on a patient. It's sensitive." Sarah raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. She knew the kind of stress we dealt with in the ER. "What's the name?" I hesitated for a moment, then gave her Layla's sister's name. As Sarah pulled up the records, I felt a twinge of guilt for invading Layla's privacy. But I needed to know what we were dealing with. What I saw made my blood run cold. The bills were astronomical, far beyond what I had imagined. But what caught my eye was a notation at the bottom of the screen. "Payment received, anonymous donor." I left the office in a daze, my mind whirling. If Layla's sister's bills had been paid, why was Layla still involved with the cryptocurrency scheme? What wasn't she telling me? As I walked back to the ER, I noticed the black SUV parked across the street. But this time, instead of fear, I felt a surge of anger. Whoever these people were, they were destroying the woman I loved. And I wasn't going to stand for it anymore. I pulled out my phone, my fingers hovering over the keypad. I had a cousin who worked for the FBI. I'd avoided calling him, respecting Layla's wishes. But now I realized I might not have a choice. As I was about to dial, a hand grabbed my arm. I whirled around to find Layla, her face pale and drawn. "Don't," she said, her voice barely audible. "Please, Erica, you don't know what you're getting into." I looked into her eyes, seeing the fear and desperation there. In that moment, I knew that whatever came next would change everything. But I also knew that I would do whatever it took to protect Layla, even if it meant risking everything. The tension that had been building between Layla and me finally reached its breaking point. We were in my apartment, the blinds drawn tight against the prying eyes of the black SUV that seemed to have become a permanent fixture outside. "Layla, I know about the anonymous donor," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you still involved with these people?" Her face paled, eyes widening in shock. "How did you?" "Never mind. Erica, you don't understand. It's not that simple." I felt a surge of frustration. "Then make me understand, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're putting yourself in danger for no reason." Layla's eyes flashed with anger. "No reason? These people have dirt on me, Erica. If I back out now, they'll destroy everything I've worked for. My career, my reputation, everything." I took a step back, stunned by her outburst. What kind of dirt could be worth all this? Worth putting your life in danger? She turned away, her shoulders slumping. I can't tell you. Please, just trust me." "Trust you?" I echoed, my voice rising. "How can I trust you when you won't be honest with me?" Our argument was interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. We both froze, exchanging panicked glances. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. "FBI, open up." My heart leapt into my throat. I moved towards the door, but Layla grabbed my arm, her grip painfully tight. "Erica, please," she begged, her eyes wide with fear. "Don't open it." I hesitated, torn between my instinct to trust Layla and my belief in law and order. In that moment of indecision, the door burst open. 2 agents entered, their badges glinting in the dim light of my apartment. "Layla Collins?" one of them asked, his eyes scanning the room. Layla stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. "I'm Layla Collins. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering." the agent said, reaching for his handcuffs. I felt like I was watching a nightmare unfold. Wait, I cried out. There must be some mistake. Layla's not a criminal, she's exactly what we say she is, ma'am, the other agent cut in. We've been investigating this cryptocurrency scheme for months. Miss Collins here is a key player. I turned to Layla, searching her face for any sign that this was all a misunderstanding. But what I saw there, guilt, resignation, and a flicker of something that looked like relief, told me everything I needed to know. As they led Layla away, she looked back at me one last time. I'm sorry, Erica, she whispered. I never meant for any of this to happen. The days that followed were a blur of interrogations and revelations. I learned that Layla had indeed been involved in the cryptocurrency scheme, but not in the way I'd thought. She'd been working as an informant for a rival group, playing both sides against the middle. The anonymous donation to her sister's medical fund had been her payment for information. I was questioned too, of course. The FBI wanted to know everything about my relationship with Layla, every detail of our conversations. I told them what I knew, which wasn't much. They seemed to believe me when I said I had no involvement in the scheme. As I sat in the sterile interrogation room, I couldn't help but think about all the moments Layla and I had shared. The laughter, the tender touches, the passionate nights. Had any of it been real? Or was I just another mark in her elaborate con? When they finally let me go home, I felt hollow. My apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt tainted by memories of Layla. I couldn't bear to look at the couch where we'd cuddled, or the bed where we'd made love. In a moment of desperation, I reached out to my cousin at the FBI. Is there anything you can tell me? I pleaded. Anything at all. He was silent for a long moment. Look, Erica, he finally said, his voice gentle. Layla's in a lot of trouble, but she's been cooperating, giving us names, dates, everything she knows. And she asked about you, wanted to make sure you were okay. I felt a lump form in my throat. Did she say anything else? Just that she was sorry, he replied, and that what she felt for you was real. For what it's worth, I believe her. As I hung up the phone, I felt tears begin to fall. The Layla I knew, the woman I'd fallen in love with, was real. But she was also a liar, a con artist, someone who'd put me in danger. How could I reconcile these two versions of her? Days turned into weeks. I threw myself into work, taking extra shifts at the hospital to keep my mind occupied. But everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of Layla. The gym where we'd met, the smoothie bar where we'd shared our first real conversation, even the hospital cafeteria where we'd stolen kisses between my shifts. One night, as I was leaving work, I spotted a familiar figure standing by my car. My heart leapt before I could stop it. Layla, I called out, my voice shaky. She turned, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with, vulnerable, beautiful, her green eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. But then reality came crashing back in. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my distance. Aren't you supposed to be in custody? Layla took a step towards me, then seemed to think better of it. I'm out on bail, she explained. Erica, I needed to see you, to explain. I felt a surge of anger. Explain what, Layla? How you lied to me. How you put me in danger. I never meant to hurt you, she said, her voice breaking. Everything I felt for you, everything we shared, it was real. Please, you have to believe that. As I looked at her, I felt my resolve weakening. Despite everything, a part of me still loved her. But could I ever trust her again? I don't know what to believe anymore, I said softly. I think you should go. Layla nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. As she turned to leave, she paused. I love you, Erica, she whispered. I'm sorry I couldn't be the person you deserved. I watched her walk away, my heart breaking all over again. As I got into my car, I realized that this wasn't the end of our story. It was just the beginning of a new, more complicated chapter. The weeks following Layla's arrest were a blur of sleepless nights and endless shifts at the hospital. I threw myself into work, desperate to escape the constant replay of memories in my mind. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the image of Layla's tear-stained face as she whispered her love for me before walking away. It was during one of these grueling night shifts that my phone buzzed with an unknown number. My heart leapt into my throat as I answered, Hello? Erica? Layla's voice was soft, hesitant. I I know I shouldn't be calling, but I need your help. I closed my eyes, torn between the urge to hang up and the undeniable pull I still felt towards her. Layla, I don't think. Please, she interrupted, her voice breaking. Just hear me out. The FBI, they want me to be an informant, to gather evidence against the people running the scheme. But I'm scared, Erica. These people are dangerous. I felt a chill run down my spine. Why are you telling me this? I can't get involved, Layla, you know that. There was a pause, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because you're the only person I trust, the only one who might understand why I have to do this. Despite my better judgment, I found myself asking, why do you have to do it? It's the only way to make things right, she replied. To protect my sister, to undo some of the damage I've caused, and to have a chance at a future. Maybe even a future with you, if you'll have me. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to tell her it was too late, that she'd broken my trust beyond repair. But the truth was, a part of me still loved her, still wanted to believe in her. What do you need from me? I asked, my voice barely audible. Just be there, she said. I might need medical help that I can't get through official channels, and I need someone to remind me why I'm doing this, someone to come back to. I took a deep breath, knowing that my next words could change everything. Okay, I said finally. I'll help. But Layla, you have to be honest with me. No more lies, no more half-truths. Promise me. I promise, she said, relief evident in her voice. Thank you, Erica. I don't deserve your help, but I'm grateful for it. Over the next few weeks, Layla and I fell into a dangerous dance. She'd call me at odd hours, sometimes just to hear my voice, other times to ask for help treating minor injuries she couldn't explain. I found myself living a double life, dedicated nurse by day, accomplice to an FBI informant by night. One evening, as I was leaving the hospital, I spotted a black SUV in the parking lot. My heart raced as I approached my car, keys clutched tightly in my hand. Just as I reached for the door handle, a hand grabbed my arm. I whirled around, ready to scream, only to find Layla standing there, her face pale and drawn. We need to talk, she said urgently. Not here. Can we go to your place? Once we were safely inside my apartment, Layla broke down. They're on to me, she sobbed. The people running the scheme. They suspect I'm working with the FBI. I pulled her close, my own fear momentarily forgotten as I tried to comfort her. What can we do? Should we call your FBI contact? Layla shook her head. Not yet. I need to get them one last piece of evidence, something that will bring the whole operation down. But it's risky, Erica. If I get caught... I cupped her face in my hands, forcing her to look at me. Then don't do it. It's not worth the risk. Her green eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of fear and determination. It is. It's the only way I can make things right. The only way I can have a chance at a future. With you. Before I could respond, she leaned in and kissed me. It was desperate and passionate, filled with all the words we couldn't say. When we broke apart, both breathless, I knew I'd do anything to protect her. Tell me what you need, I said. The plan was simple, but dangerous. Layla would attend a meeting with the scheme's ringleaders, wearing a wire provided by the FBI. My role was to wait nearby in case things went south and she needed medical attention. The night of the meeting, I sat in my car a block away, my heart pounding. Every minute felt like an hour as I waited for Layla's signal. When my phone finally buzzed, I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was a single word, now. I drove to the meeting spot, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. As I pulled up, I saw Layla stumbling out of a building, clutching her side. I leapt out of the car, rushing to her aid. What happened? I asked, helping her into the passenger seat. Got the evidence, she gasped, her face contorted in pain. But they made me, knife, my side. As I sped towards the hospital, I called Layla's FBI contact. We're heading to Fort Worth Memorial, I said. Layla's been stabbed. She says she got the evidence you need. The next few hours were a blur of emergency rooms and FBI agents. As the doctors worked to save Layla, I gave my statement to the authorities. By the time I was allowed to see her, the sun was rising over Fort Worth. Layla looked small and vulnerable in the hospital bed, but her eyes lit up when she saw me. You came, she whispered. I took her hand, squeezing it gently. Of course I came. I told you I'd be there for you. She smiled weakly. The FBI says it's over. The evidence I got, it's enough to bring down the whole operation. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, followed quickly by fear. What happens now? Layla's grip on my hand tightened. I don't know, but whatever comes next, I want to face it with you. If you'll have me. As I looked into her eyes, I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with. Flawed, complicated, but ultimately good. I leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. We'll figure it out together, I whispered. And for the first time in months, I felt hope for our future. The weeks following Layla's hospital stay were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. I found myself torn between my duties at the hospital and my desire to support Layla through every step of her journey. The woman I loved was now a key witness in a federal case against one of the largest cryptocurrency fraud schemes in Texas history. As I sat in the back of the courtroom, watching Layla take the stand, I couldn't help but marvel at her strength. She spoke clearly and confidently, her voice never wavering as she detailed her involvement in the scheme and her subsequent cooperation with the FBI. Her testimony was damning, and I could see the defendants squirming in their seats as she laid bare their illegal activities. During a recess, Layla's FBI handler approached me. Ms. Wood, he said, his voice low. I wanted to thank you for your support during this operation, Miss Collins. She's been through a lot. I nodded, unsure of how to respond. Will she face charges? I finally asked, the question that had been gnawing at me for weeks. The agent sighed. That's up to the prosecutor. But given her cooperation and the risk she took to bring down this operation, I'd say she's likely to get immunity. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. As we left the courthouse that day, I noticed Layla's hands shaking as she clutched her purse. You okay? I asked, linking my arm through hers. She gave me a wan smile. Just tired, and scared, I guess. What if they come after me? What if this isn't really over? I squeezed her arm reassuringly. Hey, look at me. You're safe now. The FBI won't let anything happen to you. And neither will I. Layla's eyes welled up with tears. I don't deserve you, Erica, after everything I've put you through. I cut her off with a gentle kiss. Stop that. We've been through this. We're in this together, remember? As we walked to my car, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. I glanced around, half expecting to see the now familiar black SUV. Instead, I caught sight of a man in a suit ducking behind a pillar. Layla, I whispered, don't look now, but I think we're being followed. Her body tensed against mine. Gosh, do you think it's one of them, from the scheme? I shook my head. No, it looked more like, Layla, I think it might be a reporter. Sure enough, as we reached my car, we were suddenly surrounded by a small crowd of journalists, all shouting questions and thrusting microphones in our faces. Layla froze, her eyes wide with panic. Miss Collins, how does it feel to betray your former associates? Ms. Wood, were you aware of Ms. Collins' illegal activities? Is it true that your relationship began as part of the scheme? The questions came fast and furious, each one more invasive than the last. I felt Layla start to tremble beside me, and something inside me snapped. That's enough, I shouted, pushing through the crowd to open the car door. We have no comment. Please respect our privacy. As we drove away, Layla burst into tears. I'm so sorry, Erica. I never meant for you to get dragged into this circus. I reached over and took her hand. Hey, it's okay. We'll get through this together, remember? The next few days were a blur of phone calls and closed-door meetings. Layla's lawyer worked tirelessly to secure her immunity deal, while I juggled my hospital shifts with fending off persistent reporters. It was exhausting, but every time I saw Layla's grateful smile, I knew it was worth it. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we got the news we'd been hoping for. The prosecutor had agreed to grant Layla full immunity in exchange for her continued cooperation. As her lawyer explained the terms of the agreement, I watched the tension slowly drain from Layla's shoulders. It's really over, she whispered, turning to me with tears in her eyes. I'm free. I pulled her into a tight embrace, feeling my own eyes well up. You did it, babe. You're safe now. That night, as we lay tangled together in my bed, Layla propped herself up on one elbow, her green eyes serious in the dim light. Erica, she said softly, I need you to know something. Everything I did, the lies, the SS scheme. It was all because I was desperate to help my sister, but meeting you, falling in love with you. That was real. It's always been real. I reached up to cup her face, my thumb tracing the curve of her cheekbone. I know, I murmured. And I love you too, all of you. Even the parts you're not proud of. Layla leaned down, capturing my lips in a tender kiss that quickly deepened, our bodies coming together in a familiar dance of passion and intimacy. As we made love, I felt the last of the walls between us crumble away, leaving only trust and love in their wake. The next morning, as sunlight streamed through the curtains, I woke to find Layla already dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed with a determined look on her face. "I want to see my sister," she said as soon as she noticed I was awake. "I need to explain everything to her, face to face." I nodded, understanding the importance of this moment. "Do you want me to come with you?" Layla hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Please, I don't think I can do this alone." The drive to the rehabilitation center where Layla's sister was receiving treatment was quiet, each of us lost in our own thoughts. As we pulled into the parking lot, Layla took a deep breath. "What if she hates me?" she whispered, her voice small and scared. I took her hand, squeezing it gently. "She's your sister. She loves you, and you did all of this for her. Give her a chance to understand." As we walked into the center, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. This was the moment of truth, the final hurdle in Layla's journey to redemption. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain: we would face it together. The rehabilitation center was a stark contrast to the chaos of the past few months. As we walked down the quiet hallways, the scent of disinfectant and the soft beeping of medical equipment reminded me of my own workplace. Layla's grip on my hand tightened as we approached her sister's room. "Ready?" I asked softly. Layla nodded, taking a deep breath before pushing open the door. Her sister, Sarah, was sitting up in bed, her face lighting up as we entered. "Layla, and you must be Erica," she said, her voice warm despite the obvious fatigue in her eyes. As Layla moved to embrace her sister, I hung back, giving them a moment of privacy. I watched as Layla began to explain everything: the investment scheme, her role as an informant, the dangerous game she'd played to secure Sarah's treatment. Sarah's expression cycled through shock, anger, and finally a deep sadness. "Oh, Layla," she sighed, taking her sister's hand. "You didn't have to do all that for me. I never wanted you to put yourself in danger." Layla's shoulders shook with silent sobs. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. And now, because of what I did, I might lose you anyway." Sarah pulled her sister close. "Hey, look at me. You're not going to lose me. We're family, and families stick together no matter what." As I watched their reconciliation, I felt a weight lift from my chest. This was the closure Layla had been seeking, the forgiveness she so desperately needed. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. With the legal proceedings behind us and Sarah's treatment progressing well, Layla and I focused on rebuilding our lives. We moved in together, combining our workout equipment to create a small home gym in the spare room. One morning, as we were going through our usual routine, Layla paused mid-push-up, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Hey, remember when we first met? You showing me how to do a proper clean and jerk?" I laughed, the memory warming me from the inside out. "How could I forget? You were so determined, even though you had no idea what you were doing." Layla sat up, her expression suddenly serious. "I was determined, wasn't I? Determined to impress this gorgeous nurse who'd taken pity on me." I felt a blush creep up my neck. "Pity? Please. I was totally smitten from the start." Layla stood up, crossing the room to where I was doing crunches. She knelt beside me, her green eyes intense. "Erica, these past few months, they've been the craziest, scariest, most amazing time of my life. And it's all because of you." My heart began to race, and not from the workout. "Layla, what are you?" Before I could finish, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I had this whole speech planned," she said, her voice shaking slightly, "about how you've stood by me through everything, how you've seen me at my worst and still loved me. But now that I'm here, all I can think is, I love you, Erica Wood. Will you marry me?" For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Then, without hesitation, I threw my arms around her, nearly knocking us both over. "Yes," I whispered, tears of joy streaming down my face. "Yes, of course I'll marry you." As Layla slipped the ring onto my finger, I marveled at how far we'd come. From that first meeting at the gym to the dangerous dance with the cryptocurrency scheme, to this moment of pure, unadulterated happiness. We celebrated that night with a quiet dinner at home, just the two of us. As we clinked our glasses together, Layla's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I never thought I'd have this," she admitted softly. "A second chance, a future with someone I love. I promise you, Erica. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret giving me that chance." I leaned across the table, capturing her lips in a tender kiss. "I could never regret it," I murmured. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, Layla Collins." As we settled into our new life together, there were still challenges to face. The media attention eventually died down, but we both had to deal with the occasional whisper or sidelong glance from those who recognized Layla from the news. Sarah's recovery was slow but steady, and we made sure to visit her regularly. One evening, as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset over Fort Worth, Layla turned to me with a smile. "You know, if someone had told me a year ago that I'd be here, engaged to the most amazing woman in the world, with my sister on the mend and my legal troubles behind me, I would have said they were crazy." I squeezed her hand, feeling the cool metal of her engagement ring against my palm. "Life has a funny way of surprising us," I replied, "but I wouldn't change a thing." As we sat there, basking in the warm glow of the setting sun and our love for each other, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation for the future. Our journey had been far from easy, filled with danger, deception, and heartache. But it had also been a journey of growth, forgiveness, and profound love. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together. Because that's what Layla and I did best. We lifted each other up, pushed each other to be better, and loved each other fiercely through it all. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, I turned to Layla, my heart full to bursting. "So, future Mrs. Wood Collins," I said with a grin, "ready for our next adventure?" Layla's answering smile was radiant. "With you by my side? Always." And as we sealed that promise with a kiss, I knew that this was just the beginning of our happily ever after.